Incidents of rape and similar cases seems to still be on the rise, at least the reported cases, even with the media and other authorities staying on the matter. One of such has brought special report to Olokuta, which is in Yewa South of Ogun State in southwest Nigeria. And unfortunately, this case involves a father and a daughter. You're welcome. I'm Ini John Mekwa. The signage announces the location of Christ Apostolic Church, Ogolorunton, and also serves as the landmark for a quiet community, Olokuta CDA, in Owode Yewa South. The community is just about 20 kilometers from the state's border with the Republic of Benin and is made up more of non-indigens who have purchased and developed lands to build homes. The peace of the community was recently shattered on the 8th of July when the church received unexpected guests.
Here I sat that very fateful morning when I saw the police vehicle coming in. And I waited about 20 to 25 minutes before he was whisked out with handcuffs. So I began to wonder for what purpose. Maybe perhaps because he's holding Secret Service or whatever. But a few hours later, towards that evening, I started reading a lot about it on the Opera News, in which I wouldn't believe.
One of the news items which the neighborhood learnt eventually was an admittance to the alleged incest.
It's a great mistake. There's no any explanation I can give. Just God to forgive me. It's a great mistake, and I plead for all Nigerians to forgive me too. I don't drink any alcoholic. I'm not smoking. But just it's work of devil. It's work of devil. It's not intentionally. I'm just find myself in that situation. If I see poison, I can kill myself because it's beyond my imagination. It's beyond my human knowledge. If I see poison now that I can drink and die, as I stand here, I'm ready to die. I'm plead to God and all Nigerians, Nigeria to forgive me.
While he admits to doing wrong, he argues against some of the details which has emerged from police investigation. The details include carrying on the act for about 5 years and terminating pregnancies which resulted from it.
It's a great lie. I don't do it for 5 years. No. That incident happened 2017 and stopped 2018.
I just have to live for peace to reign.
His daughter, the alleged survivor, has made public a telephone conversation with him. The talk, according to her, was after she left the house in search for help and he was trying to persuade her to return home.
I have stayed enough. I have endured it enough. I can't take it again. And that is why I had to shout on you on the last Saturday of February. And you repeated it again. Kilode, if I tell you no, you start beating. If I tell you no, you start shouting. You cannot die. This is not your first time of kneeling down on that altar.
This type of conversation is another shock to members of the community as they say it contradicts the personality they are familiar with after the clergyman has been operating the church in the area for about a decade.
He just built the church he come with me for here. Upon say that pastor, now me and him did landlord association, I did do landlord association with him.
He's one of us. He's part of the landlord. We've been together. At least I met him here before he came in about 5 years ago or 6 years ago. He has been holding his church and everything was going on smoothly there. He lost his wife about 5 years ago. That was precisely about 2015. But since then, he has been doing wonderfully in this community. You go to the CDA, there you find him. He contributed a lot. And on his church, the church is growing. There you see members, a lot of activities, festivities, activities, morning, night, and evening programs. So that's how I knew him.
The church, we're told, has a membership of about 100 and is now shut. The residence of the pastor is lifeless and may remain this way for a while. going by the allegations that the police has shared from their investigation.
It was revealed that the father impregnated the daughter 3 times and took her to a nurse who decided to do the ungodly thing of aborting the pregnancies on 3 occasions. He went further to have conspired with this nurse to do family planning on the girl so as not to impregnate her again from her sexual activities with the girl.
And other kind of inhuman abuses.
Ejiro Erumokoro is a journalist turned activist speaking for the rights of children. Operating in Delta State, she says she's been involved in cases which has left many of the survivors with no avenue to get help.
Child abuse, abuse by adults, abuse by neighbors, by family members, relatives, by fathers is becoming increasing every day. In Delta State, for example, we've had cases where high-profile individuals who wanted to settle out of court wanted to get away with the crime of raping young children. A young girl no more than 12 years old, her parents, along with the perpetrator, actually went as far as carrying out a D&C on the little girl so that they can hide the fact that this abuser raped this young girl of 12. Now, the mother has gone hand in hand, toe to toe, even the father of this young girl, and they've supported this perpetrator in committing another heinous crime, abortion on a 12-year-old. Now, these incidents are increasing only because we have a judicial system that is not enforced. We have gaps in the judicial system. We have a situation where the police too are not well trained. Sad to say, I must say that the police are not doing a fantastic job when it comes to handling of child abuses cases that has been brought to them. The juvenile center in Delta State has nothing to write home about. The remand homes, they have been abandoned. We see billions of money being put aside for National Assembly renovation, government house renovation, and all of those kinds of renovations. And yet the remand homes, the juvenile centers, are left to rot, are abandoned, neglected. And the children there also receive every kind of inhuman maltreatment you can think about. All of these contribute to why we're having this kind of repetitive abuse. We've seen cases where young children, because they were not properly held and helped in remand homes, and there was none to go to, they were actually sent to be placed in adult prisons. They learn bad things in adult prisons, come out of this adult prison without being helped, without being rehabilitated. And when they return, what happens? They go back to perpetuate the same crime that took them into the police station in the first instance. We've had cases where IPOs outrightly demand for money. We've also seen cases where IPOs handling sexual gender-based violence, domestic violence, also negotiate and accept bribes from perpetrators and abusers, whether low-profile individuals or high-profile individuals. And then when you see a situation where a young child is being brought at the police station to speak about what happened to them, you see the police officers actually asking a young child, "You were enjoying it, Abby? That's why you did not complain." How dare you ask a child like that? So the Nigerian police, to a very large extent, even though this often falls on their purview, they don't help the case.
Once the case is exposed, people know that a child has been molested. The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, provides solace for survivors of sexual abuse, and not just minors with their parents, but those whose situation may be compounded by being used in child labor.
Let me just say, January now, we had about 180 cases with respect to child labor offenses, child abuse, and specifically if you're talking about sexual violence, we have a couple of them. And if you're talking of from February till now, we have quite some of them. Sexual violence of minors. We have cases of a girl being violated by her own biological brother. We have a case of a lady who has been around with us. She has a baby. She came up from across the border to come and work as a house help in Nigeria. And This girl got pregnant, and allegations going on is that both a father and a son were going to the same place. What is holding us now is DNA to try and prove who the real father is so that prosecution can go on. That is why NAPTIP is against the employment of minors, engagement of minors. These minors, they don't have the power, they don't have the capacity to say, if I'm employing an adult, you say, when do I start work? When do I close? What are my benefits? Do I have hospital attendance if I'm sick? A minor cannot negotiate all this. Again, there is this authority relationship that is against the minor. So when a minor comes to a house and the owner of the house or the elder boys around want to have sexual intercourse with her, she's always at a difficult situation. When we enter it, we investigate. I tell people we're a specialized agency. By one hand, we arrest, we search, we confiscate through court. By another hand, we rescue victims from exploitative environment. We bring them into our shelter, which is what we are always doing. Then we counsel them, we rehabilitate them. We do their needs assessment, we do their medicals, we do their social inquiry. Do you want to go home? Are your parents expecting you? Some victims, their parents are angry with them because of what happened before they left. It is our job in NAPTIP, it's our duty to go and make peace. Then this child or this girl is brought back home and the house is ready to receive her. Even within this period, we had 24 cases of sexual exploitation brought to us by a place was raided, NAPTIP and the police, and 24 victims. Some of them as young as 13 years.
Dealing with
sexual exploitation. We brought them. Even within this COVID period, we brought them in. We took care of their medical needs. And when an investigation goes to a particular level, we have sent them to the state where they come from, somewhere in the south side, 24 at a time.
So when these things involve parents, fathers are the ones having sexual intercourse with their children, how does NAPTIP, because then you don't have a home to even send the child back to.
You got it. Because normally, when a child is rescued, a girl is rescued from an exploitative environment, the aim is to counsel her, rehabilitate her, prepare her, and eventually lead her gently home where she can live a normal, productive life. But when a father becomes the culprit, we have no other choice than to prosecute the man. But most of the time, like I will tell you people, no case can succeed in court if there is no witness or the witness is not ready. At times, there are problems of family people trying to interfere. Will you really want to send daddy to jail? But now people have found a way about it. The evidence of the victim is taken in camera. And all that needs to be done is taken. And then prosecution is going on. And we're right, as we talk, we are prosecuting several of them. Family environment, if it is hostile, there are shelters. Apart from us, we have NGOs. We have our referral pathways. We have NGOs like here. We are lucky to have an NGO in Lagos. Girls who are sexually ravaged from between the ages of 18 to 25, they want us to give those people to them. And we have given them to them. For 12 calendar months, they will be with her, with that NGO. They learn skills, they go to school, they do things that are good for them. After 12 months, they are empowered, they come back to us and we gently take them back home. Within this period, all that is needful to be done will have been done. NAPTIP will never hand over a girl to a very volatile family environment. We wouldn't do that.
In 2015, UNICEF reported that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 10 boys in Nigeria had experienced sexual violence before the age of 18. According to a survey by Positive Action for Treatment Access, over 31% of girls had their first sexual encounter by force or rape. Section 357 of the Criminal Code Act defines rape as any person who has unlawful carnal knowledge of a woman or girl without her consent or with her consent if the consent is obtained by force or by means of threats or intimidation of any kind, or by fear of harm, or by means of false and fraudulent representation as to the nature of the act, or, in the case of a married woman, by personating her husband, is guilty of an offense which is called rape. Child sexual abuse in Nigeria is an offense under several sections of Chapter 21 of the country's criminal code. The age of consent is 18. However, justice can only be attained in reported cases, and this has had some challenges in the country.
The cases of rape is not reported. People don't report cases because of so many reasons. One, stigmatization. Some will tell you, there was a case we entertained here. It was a rape case. The mother of the victim was interested in the matter, but the father was not interested. He even threatened to divorce his wife if she continued with the case. And what are we going to do in that aspect? We have to look at the interests of the victims. If you continue with that case, probably, not probably, the woman will be divorced, and the guy will take another wife, and the victim and the wife will suffer. So at the end of the day, we talk to them to make sure that we continue the case. They say they are not interested.
It is the person who wears the shoes that knows where it pinches him the most. I think what government have to do as a start, in addition to adopting the VAP in all the states in Nigeria, is to ensure that most rape cases go to female judges. This is because they are the ones, as mothers, as sisters, as cousins, they actually have that empathy more with the victims of rape. They would sit down and actually take the time to analyze the evidence that has been presented and all the circumstances leading to that accusation of rape.
The Sex Offenders Register is another discouraging strategy which NAPTIP has adopted. It was launched in 2019 as an online platform to allow members of the public and security agencies conduct background checks and identify sex offenders.
All sexual indiscretions, once you are prosecuted and you are convicted, that hall of shame is where you belong to. And it's an example to show people how not to behave. At the click of the button, the hall of shame will come out. Their biodata, their pictures, age, occupation, what they do, who they had the indiscretion with, everything is there. It is something, it is the condition precedent to go into that hall of shame is prosecution and conviction. Once you are prosecuted and are convicted, we are at liberty to publish you. We publish. We don't shield people from it. They are there. The hall of shame is there. People have already made the list, and more are coming. As we talk, there are clips we have taken from the social media, and we are working on it. We are working on it. Is it employment? Is it a bogus employment advert? Whatever it is. We are forever foraging the social media, and we see it, we take it. We look for them. You that you say you are employing people, what are your certifications? What are your licenses? And again, we are telling Nigerians, beware. Beware of bogus promise of 250,000 naira per month, 300,000 naira per month at Dubai. We were checking them, we are on them.
To increase awareness and knowledge against sexual-based violence, going to the grassroots with relevant information in necessary language and adopting necessary strategies has also been preached.
For instance, if it is during school period, we select some schools. We visit them, tell them the dangers associated with trafficking generally, then the rape, which is on the increase now, so that the children and the staff will be aware on the recent happening, so that they have to, be careful. And when cases when they come across such cases, they shouldn't be shy. Such cases should be reported to any security agents or NAPTIP immediately, so that investigation can be done, victim can be rescued. At the same time, the suspect will be charged to court. Not only that, we go to marketplaces to talk to the people on the dangers associated with particularly the rape cases now. When we've been given a marching order to make sure that we have to reach out to people by DG, that we need to reach out to people so that people will get informed, be aware, they know the implication of not reporting such cases.
We'll have to look at the awareness through the media houses. All this one, we try to involve them to be able to make through jingles and other forums of discussions in the TV and radio programs, where people will tend to understand the ills of this menace.
Nigeria is a deeply religious country with high regards accorded clerics, mostly from the two major beliefs, which is Christianity and Islam. This places a demand on religious leaders to lend their voices in enlightenment on this social ill, which seems to be spreading and leaving negative impact on the survivors.
God is against rape. In fact, anything that is sexual sin is what God is against. He doesn't take it lightly. Anything that is sexual sin. Then graduating it to rape is the most heinous crime a man can commit against a woman, because you're taking her against her will. And if God is against sexual sin, if you now rape a person, I think God is going to visit that person with the strictest of judgment. For instance, in 1 Corinthians 6, the Bible says we should flee from sexual immorality. That's general now. And it goes further down to tell us why we have to flee. He said every sin that you commit is outside the body. So if you steal, it's outside the body. But if you commit sexual sin, it's against your body. And the Bible says our body is the temple of God.
In Islam, there is a fundamental difference between the punishment of rapists and that of the person involving in adultery or fornication. But many scholars agree that there is a difference between the two judgments. Some say no, raping is nothing but a subcategory of fornication. So what does that mean? It means that the kind of punishment reserved for adultery is the same to be applied to a rapist. And depending upon the social status of the person involved. For example, in Islam, if he is married, then the punishment the person involved is to be stoned to death. If he is not, then he is to be flogged 100 lashes or deported to another place in order to have a new beginning, as they say.
If you see something, please say something, because you may be saving a child from a lifetime trauma. And don't forget that you can say something through our email, specialreports@channelstv.com, and you can also send me a tweet, and I'll be really glad to read from you. Well, that's it for this episode of the program. I'm Ini John Mekwa.